May 23, 2024. This is the S&P 500 E-futures mini on the 2000 tick chart using NinjaTrader 8. There were two times in the day that economic data was released that moved the markets or looked like it moved the market. One was at 5:30 Pacific Standard, which is about where my cursor is. Looked like it hit a high, then it had the sell-off. That was the unemployment claims. And then the second time was at 6:45, which is about right here. You see my cursor again. That was the flash manufacturing PMI and flash services PMI. Then the rest of the day, there was no other economic data. Overall, the market structure looked like it was one big leg, and inside there's smaller legs. And then there was this consolidation area where there was, a bunch of legs, a bunch of second entries, and then a second large leg sell off to what I can only say is kind of a more shallow sell off to maybe small trading range area. There was a lot of volume today. This is like by far the most busiest high volume day I've seen in a while because the last few days and last week, I think last 2 weeks, it's been very, very slow trading. Unfortunately, well, I wouldn't say unfortunately, but there wasn't as many setups as I'd hoped for, but there were quite a few setups to maybe take a stab at. I actually missed a few, and not missed a few like I attempted it. It's just I wasn't paying attention or I was doing something else and I missed it and then saw the trade after the fact. So I did manage to take one trade and it was green. It was kind of late in the day. It wasn't the best setup of the day, but I was able to get it for a quick scalp. And it was kind of in the last 30 minutes. I thought the trade was pretty good. And I believe seeing some of the previous trades go by without me, there was probably a little bit of FOMO that I felt. So I think I entered the trade when typically if I had gotten one of these previously, I might have just skipped this one because there's only 30 minutes left unless the setup is absolutely positively perfect. I would tend to avoid it, especially in the last 10 minutes. If there's something in the last 10 minutes, I'm just not going to take it. So this one and only trade, I think it was a reasonably okay trade, but it was definitely because I feel like some of these setups that went by, I thought, man, those look like they were relatively decent. I saw potentially this one leg down and then the second measured leg, but as you can see, price action didn't really respect it too much and it just kind of broke through and kept going. It's a pretty busy chart today because if you look at what happened yesterday, wasn't as, I mean, look at this. This is the whole day and this is like pretty much double the volume. So, okay, pre-market. Premarket is just this very slow, very deliberate grind up, sell off, and then a second grind up till right here where economic data was released. Actually got right here. It looked like it didn't affect the market all that much. Then it started to sell off into the open of regular trading. Prices start moving down. What I think is in this green channel. At this point, I'm thinking we might be stuck in a range because it did have a bullish bias, but already went two legs up and it's reversing. So I was just thinking most likely we might just have a range today. I couldn't really see a big rally here, especially uh, still within the first minute. We're already kind of testing the previous low, not the low of the day, but at least coming right back down. Prices move in this green channel. No clean second entries that I could find. It's far from the EMA. If anything, you'd want to go short, but I didn't see any, I guess, safe short opportunities. Prices move down. It breaks out of the green channel, kind of moves sideways. You have a new low here, so you only have first entry short. This red down channel doesn't exist yet. Prices move. I do draw this orange trend line resistance. Again, so I actually had this a little tighter up here, but I treated this as a failed breakout. And I'm seeing prices come back, and I was wondering if it's going to hit the EMA and get an EMA rejection, maybe a potential second entry short or a short trade opportunity. So it goes up and then flashes down. So when I saw this, I didn't see a first entry. So technically, you have a first entry here by the count. You could say maybe there's a first entry short here, pull back second entry short, but you have to go to a smaller tick chart to see this. And I just wanted to read it as is. So unfortunately, there was no real opportunity to take this. But this is also right at 645 with the flash manufacturing PMI and flash services PMI numbers come out. So it would have been risky because it could easily just go the other way. Starts chopping around, falls into this range. So at this point, I do see a potential triple test. It's a little hard to see, but there is this range that these guys are in. Now, this triple test is an almost trade because the range is too tight. It's only about 2 points, and where it closes, you could say, okay, there's a triple test. It failed to get here, and maybe it's going to push down. But this is it's granted a 2 point bar. It's a strong signal bar, but it's already approaching the low of the range. So you'd be kind of selling into the low. So I wanted to leave it alone. At this point, I was playing with different channels and different trend lines, and I found this red one because it was actually where the green one was, and then I kind of expanded it. Thought the red one touched nicely here, touched nicely here. So breakout and a failure is coming back through, pushes down. At this point, I'm expanded my orange channel to about right here, kind of encapsulates this price action a little bit better, breaks out, and then I also found this overlapping yellow channel. So right now it's kind of looks like it's obeying this red trend line coming down. And it looks like it's kind of falling into this yellow channel now, especially right now where it looks like it's falling pretty well. So I'm not thinking long. I'm definitely trying to find a short. Now you could, if you're more experienced, notice that this is following a very strong sell-off with very small pullbacks. That you could probably try to jump in on one of these if it looked decent. I didn't have confidence in my read, so I definitely just sat on my hands and waited. I wanted a more deliberate setup that kind of just screams at you like, here I am. And I fortunately didn't get that. Prices then continue moving down. It's starting to push and break out of this yellow down channel, but it's still contained in what I think is this red down channel. So here it starts moving sideways. These are very small, tight candles. I don't really like trading these because it could reverse on a dime on you because this is only about 2 to 3 point range. So that's very tight trading. With the candles already taking up a bulk of the move. The prices start moving out, hits the high, comes back down. You have a first entry long. Technically, you have a second entry long. The second entry long, I wouldn't have thought to take a long yet. It is a break of this channel. That's the new low, and it could be reversing. But when you just see this in real time, I'm not thinking going long, especially when the bias all day has been very bearish. It flashes up. If you did take the long, I mean, more power to you. This signal bar for me had to be better, had to be more bullish for me to even try. Once I saw this, I was looking for a higher low. And unfortunately, you don't get that higher low. Technically, you get a higher low here, but it's pulled back too much. It went up, came back down. Now this is your higher low. It just felt a little too far away. And I was thinking, okay, there's some kind of confirmation, maybe some support here. And I put the highs of the trading range right here. So I'm expecting prices maybe to move back up. And it moves to the high and breaks through. So I was looking, okay, maybe there's a new low here, say first entry short, pull back. Technically, you have a second entry short, a second entry short failure. I saw this in real time. I saw a second entry short failure. What I really wanted was this candle to tick one tick below this guy and then close where it did here. The thing that was stopping me was it's potentially running into the previous resistance. So there was the price, you saw market action, market price action had trouble getting past here. So it could be starting to range. And I was thinking if it's starting to range, it's going to hit here and potentially rip back down to touch the lows. So I don't want to be a part of that. But it flashes up. Now I'm thinking, okay, maybe there's a failed breakout, chops around. It's consolidating now, breaks out of this orange up channel. It looked like it was the bias was still trying to push up until I saw this candle, then it flushed down. I don't think there's a short necessarily yet, even though this is a very nice candle. It's right above the EMA, right outside the top of the trading range. So it's a little confusing. You could argue this itself is a smaller congestion consolidation area, another trading range here, which is through. Now I'm looking for a higher low. You technically get a higher low here, so you could think it's probably moving back into range. Then I see this. I see a new high, first entry long, pullback, second entry long. Technically, your second entry long hasn't failed yet, but I'm anticipating a failure because it just moved up a couple of ticks, then it reversed really strongly, closed at the low. So I thought this is the break of the orange channel, made one attempt, two attempts. So technically, orange channel has played out, tested the highs here. It was two clean legs up. This red channel, this red leg is huge. So it might be looking for another test down. So it could be first attempt, push up. This could be start of a second attempt to test this low. But I thought this is a reasonably good trade, probably. I like that it closed below the EMA. EMA is starting to move sideways, and it closed inside this range. So it looked like it would have worked. Unfortunately, I wasn't, mentally sharp to see it and take it. Prices move down. It breaks out of this yellow channel, but this yellow channel I don't like as much because it is a little bit wide, but it did only confirm once here, never confirmed the second time. At the top side, it could be argued that it kind of confirms relatively well, but then price is already starting to move sideways again. You have first entry short, technically you have a second entry short here, but you're not thinking short just yet. And then when you see this, the trade is too late because it's already made the scalp. You would have to have seen this and then placed your entry probably one tick below here to ride this down because it did kind of get a rejection off the top of the range. But this happened and I wasn't, sharp enough to see it and catch it in time. And if you definitely, missed the trade, looks like it would have just reversed and maybe have taken you out right here if your exit was one tick above. If this one didn't take you out, this guy would have taken you out for sure if he had gone short. Prices then continue moving up. It hits what I think is a resistance area. So at this point, I'm thinking the bottom of the trading range is roughly in this zone, maybe not exactly to the tick. And the highs originally I thought was here, because it looked like it obeyed it with a fail breakout, kind of a dwell outside. But now I'm thinking maybe this blue line here could encompass the actual trading range because it had this rejection and pushback down. Created a new high, created a first entry long, but I also saw this as a lower high. And interestingly enough, it is the hidden second entry short because you have a new low here, lower than all these guys, made a first entry short. This one pulled up, ticked one tick above, then flushed all the way back down and ticked below this guy. So this red candle engulfed this guy. And not only that, it was a deliberate push. One up, traps everybody, flushes back down and closed, at the low of this candle. So I thought this is a lower high to what's going on here and a second entry short. And if you're still playing this blue range, it's moving back into the blue range. So I thought this is a possible trade, but when I saw this happen, I didn't get my order ready fast enough, kind of ticked up and then flushed down. So unfortunately, I missed that opportunity. Goes down on this yellow channel, hits the low of my trading range, what I think is a trading range. So I'm looking for a potential fail breakout and then reverse back into this high or up to the top of the trading range because this yellow down channel, there's a break now. But then it keeps going downwards. So now I'm just kind of sitting on my hands. At one time I was thinking, okay, maybe it wasn't an overshoot. I should just extend it like that. Starts chopping sideways, makes a new low, also a new low of day, pushes up really strong. This is the first break. I'm expecting a test of this high, so it only has a first entry short. Technically, you have a second entry short confirmed here now. Second entry short, I'm not too keen on. I do know the yellow down channel needs to test its low. It's one attempt down, push up, second attempt down. But this closed just right at the EMA. It's also potentially hitting this possible support. So in order for me to want to take a short, in order to go with this bias down, I want to see a I want to see a lower high. But you don't get that and just reverses back up. So now I'm abandoning going short and just watching price action. Pushes up really strongly. Technically, I have a visual first entry short. Technically, here I have second entry short here, but first entry short pull back, second entry short. Potentially a fail breakout moving back into range. It chops around. This could be a lower high, but it's pretty close to the EMA now, so I just left that alone. Looks like if you did go short on a lower high, you would have gotten in, and this candle looked like it would have stopped you out. So it looked like it was a trap right here. Chops around. Now this is just getting noisy. These are just pretty much just dojis side by side, so I don't really like that. Just kind of, it shows that the market hasn't quite figured out the direction it wants to go, and it has a tug of war here. Chops around, starts drifting upwards. This is interesting that, okay, there's just like large wicks on each side of the bodies. It gets a little bit better, but then hits another consolidation area, starts drifting up. I think I found a secondary, more shallow channel because it confirms nicely down here, and it does kind of confirm nicely up here. There's a break, This is where my original resistance was. So I'm thinking, okay, there's this trading range, and there's potentially a larger one here. So at least there's some kind of reaction happening right at this level. It looked like it was bounce off of it, then it flushes through. You technically have a second entry long here, and you high, first entry long, second entry long. This isn't a very good signal bar. It's a little confusing. Is this really moving back into range, back down, or is this valid and moving back up? It's also below the EMA, so I just didn't like that setup. Continues down, so I drew this potential channel downwards, breaks out, consolidates a little bit, and starts moving back up. You don't even get a second entry short till about here. So you have a first entry short off a little bit. Second entry short right here. The second entry short is what I call an almost trade because I like that one. It's not that I like, but I noticed that it tried once, twice, three times, four times to break above this level. It's having a lot of trouble. 2,000 trades have gone through here in each of these, and it's failing pretty much to break through more than roughly 2 points. And then it suddenly has this second entry short push down strongly. It's an almost trade because I wanted this to break below the EMA and close below. Then I'd feel confident first entry short, second entry short. Since it's still above the EMA and it's the first break of this channel up, I didn't think it was a high probability trade because there's a chance that it could bounce off the EMA and then test the high and finally break through this 5 touch. This is also the first breakout, so I had to leave it alone. Now it did break through. I'm looking for a lower high confirmation to try to ride this back down. Unfortunately, you don't get that lower high. It just starts moving down. And it's just kind of the trade, it's gone now. It's left without you. And if there was some way to get on this, it would have been a pretty awesome trade. Prices then start moving down. It looks like it's moving down on this channel. It starts hitting sideways. So I think I found another trading range. I do see a new low here, say first and short, pull back, potentially a second entry short. It's confirmed second entry short, potential fail breakout. Now this fail breakout, second entry short, I thought it was a possible trade. This isn't a good signal bar to get you ready for a short. So you're not thinking short just yet. You're thinking maybe fail breakout. You see this candle. Now you definitely know it's a fail breakout. Confirmed second entry short, high of the range. If I wanted to enter, I would have probably put it one tick below this guy. Excuse me. And it looked like it would have gotten filled. And this big candle would have definitely given you the scalp. And you would, in my opinion, want to exit before you try to test this lows because you don't know if this is going to act as support. It doesn't though, and it keeps kind of pushing back down and through. So unfortunately, this is a missed trade. You have a new low here. It's a first entry short, and it starts consolidating. Not consolidating. It starts starting to grind back downwards. It hits this. I did have another channel drawn previously, but it didn't really seem to help me find any setup, so I did delete it later just for clarity. I drew this channel when I was playing around. I saw there's one touch here, two touch, turned into a channel. I saw there's some decent confirmations here. Price action is following this bearish bias down. So I thought, okay, maybe there is a setup here. Excuse me, not a setup, but there is a channel coming down. It's a new low. It's a first entry short pullback. This is a second entry short. What I wanted this to do was to hit the EMA, touch it, and reject, because that would have been perfect. Because you'd have two key entry points. You'd have both the EMA and this third touch and test rejection plus the second entry short. But it didn't do that, so I left it alone. Prices then moved down, and then it hits another very tight consolidation area. I was watching carefully to see if there's at least a touch to the EMA. Fortunately, you don't get anything until you get to here. And it flushes down. There was no clean setup that I could see here, or no safe setup for my experience level. Prices moved down, so I noticed this an overshoot. So I was wondering if it's going to crawl down to this side, but other than the two previous touches, it looks like price action is having trouble coming back to the lows. But it still drifts down. It obeys and respects this yellow down channel's top resistance. You do have a new low, first entry short. Technically, you have a second entry short confirmed. This isn't a very good signal bar to go short off of. You do have this yellow down channel resistance that help you, but it isn't a good signal bar. It's already testing the low of days, so I'm just more reluctant to take this setup. It moves sideways, so if you did enter, you'd be sitting through this noise. But then likely right around here, you would have gotten your quick scalp. Of course, you don't know that at the time because you don't know if this is very close to making the measured move that I determined previously. Because on a higher tick chart, you see one big leg, consolidation, and then a second big leg. And this is really close to where it was previously. So I was reluctant to try to, be ambitious and try to take any trades, any short trades, especially right here when it's already testing low of days. Could be a small breakout, move back up, might have a small correction. So I was just didn't like what I saw, just kind of sat on my hands. Prices then break out of the yellow down channel, but it does find resistance or some kind of reaction by the EMA. Fortunately, you only have a first entry short, pulls back and pushes back up, consolidates. Technically, you have a second entry short here now. It's also the break of this green channel and tested the new high. This is a doji bar though. I didn't quite like that. But once I saw it reverse back down, I'm looking for a lower high right at the EMA ideally. So I'm hoping this next candle ticks one tick above and then closes nice and bearish. It doesn't. It closes this big green inside bar. So I just kind of abandoned the idea of going short and even going long because it's just like, okay, you don't quite know what's going to happen. Just wait. Hops around and starts moving down again. So you do have a first entry long pullback. You also have a new low first entry short. It hits almost like a double bottom here. So you do have a new high, first entry long, second entry long. This is a small candle. I wouldn't be eager to go long because just look at the price action previously. It's clearly a bearish day. And you could say, well, the downtrend has played out. It's just been selling off for too long. Well, that's what happened here. You thought this big sell-off and then this consolidation, it obviously has to move back up. Well, that's not necessarily the case. And that's what I thought could be happening here. We could have some sideways movement down here, similar to this, and then continue sell off downwards. So definitely wasn't thinking of going long yet, especially if prices are below the EMA. Pushes up, pops around, pushes back down. I thought this was kind of a small little trading range, but I didn't really see an entry. This is technically a new high, first entry long. If you found a second entry long here, you could combine it with the failed breakout and think prices are moving back in. But it is below the EMA. It is counter trend, so I wouldn't be that excited about it. So you do have your first entry long, second entry long here now. Second entry long is kind of what I mentioned. You do have a potential move back into range, but in order for me to feel comfortable, I want to see a higher low, ideally with a break and close above the EMA. So you technically have potentially a higher low here. It does break, but it didn't close above the EMA. So I was thinking, okay, get a trade ready. I wasn't that excited about the signal bar. Then this next one, it opens here, flashes up, comes back down. I wanted to see how it closed. And when it closed pretty much below or right at the middle of this candle, I just thought, don't really like this. But it would have worked out. We have a visual second entry short. So I thought this is a new low, first entry short pullback, second entry short. Now, a higher tick frame, you could say this is one test, two test, three test. So this is a one test, two test, three test. My mouse is something funky. Okay, so then it's also a visual first entry short, second entry short. So this isn't the best signal bar to go short on. Then the follow-up bar that confirms it was a doji. So that gave me pause. Then when it flashed up and came back down, I wasn't ready to take this trade, but I thought, okay, this is kind of like a possible trade because the breakout of the range, it's failed to break out and it's moving back out, moving back down. I could see people potentially getting trapped this because right when they see this and then they see this, the tick up and down, they could have just put in their entries one tick below this guy. Looks like you potentially would have gotten filled, flashed up, maybe stopped you out, and then gone in the direction you wanted. So this is a little bit of a more tricky setup. Well, not setup, but trickier price action. It does create a lower high, but this lower high is what I call an almost trade. The reason I don't like it is it's already testing the lows of where I established my trading range to be. You could have said your trading range is even lower, maybe down where my cursor is, but I like the two confirmations here. So two confirmations kind of establishes more of a firm low of the trading range as opposed to down here. I dragged it down here, there would only be one confirmation. So knowing that, I thought this lower high break of this potential down channel already tested lows. I wasn't too keen on trying to go short and ride it even further. But that's kind of what happens. It goes down further, and you do have a new high, first entry long pullback, second entry long. This is a second entry long. When you have the second entry long confirmed here, I thought, okay, it pushed up, it didn't quite touch the EMA, and it kind of closed back down. So I thought, is there a trade here? But I also don't like that it's testing and pushing toward the low of day. However, as shown previously, the low of day hasn't really been holding as a support. It just keeps moving lower and lower and lower each time. But that you can't just say that and just assume that's going to keep happening. So when I saw this, I was tempted, but I considered it an almost trade because it has an EMA, almost EMA rejection. It's pretty close. Prices failed to break the previous low of day though, because it tested once here. The second time it tested and it went back up. So what I was seeing was it failed here. It's kind of repeating here. Could it be something like this? I'm going to go short. It might trap me and then reverse back up. So I'm thinking something over here. Could it do the same thing? Come down slightly, let me enter the trade, and then reverse right back up, right up into here, which would validate the idea that the low of this trading range might actually be down here. As you watch more price action unfold, you get a better idea. So I wasn't ready to go short. Then it flushes through. So I'm thinking, okay, is there going to be a reversal now? It doesn't. It kind of just keeps chopping lower. Then it hits this consolidation area. So today, definitely, if you just always went short, looks like it would have worked out for the most part most of the time. You would have probably made a lot of profit. Consolidates. I don't like there's just dojis right here. It's too tight. Pushes back up. I noticed a potential resistance right here. Goes back down. It's kind of falling into and creating a second trading range. It's just kind of noisy here. Comes back down. It chops. So you do have like this double top. You could say it's the first entry long, second entry long. This is a terrible signal bar. You could try to make the argument that it's some kind of support bottom of the range, but I would rather have this as a bullish bar. So this is just like stay away. Prices move up, kind of test this potential high. So I'm thinking there might be another trading range here. Breaks out. This is a very strong bar. It's also very large. It's 4.75 points. And then it kind of like reverses and takes all that back in 2 bars. So this is just, don't get too ambitious. Prices then continue moving down. I see a new high. It's a first entry long pullback. Technically, you have a second entry long here. The second entry long, maybe it's a possible trade. It's a good signal bar here. If you had this purple line drawn like I did, you could say that's another key entry point. You could also argue that it closed above the EMA. So it's a good signal bar, close above the EMA. Maybe there's a trade here. And after this break of this orange up channel, it could be one attempt, pull back, could be starting a second attempt. I wasn't too sure I was going to come back down and test the lows here. So I was kind of seeing if there's going to be a higher low, and you get a higher low here. So here is the higher low. Actually, I didn't mark this. I should. Here is a higher low here. This higher low might have been a decent trade to take because actually you do have enough room to scalp out before you get to the top, just barely. This higher low actually might have been a worthwhile trade to take because obviously price action is starting to creep up higher and it's testing the high side now. So this higher low confirmation does validate the second entry long. So yeah, this probably, I didn't see this previously. This candle would have ensured that you would have, gotten your scalp. And this is actually where I take my one and only trade. So seeing this previous price action with so much volume and volatility, I was definitely feeling FOMO. But I did see this as a new low. I saw a first entry short pullback, second entry short. Second entry short is a confirmed second entry short, but the way it closed, it looks like it's about to fail. Now we do have this resistance coming into play. So I'm thinking if the next candle breaks up and closes above, or it looks like it's about to close, because you're gonna have to wait through 2,000 ticks. If it's getting close to the close and it's still hanging out there, I want to take this trade. So this candle actually opens here. It kind of floats here, pushes down, comes back up. It breaks above this. So I'm pretty happy about that. It tests the highs and it comes back down. So before this candle closed, I said, I want to enter. I entered right at the highs here and was able to quickly scalp out and then it flushed down and closed. So I thought maybe there's a chance that this is the top of the range It's starting to reverse back down. I was thinking I was rather lucky with this trade, this failed second entry short. And then, next candle starts pushing up. So nevertheless, I wasn't trying to go for more than my usual profit target. I was okay just taking this, especially this late in the day. It's already within the last 30 minutes. And I know I was feeling a little bit of FOMO and jealous. Well, not jealous, but just, thinking all these other people are probably taking these setups that I missed because I just wasn't ready or trusting it. So I took this, and I believe if I had gotten some profitable trade previously, this is a trade I might have just skipped because it is late in the day. Not the nicest setup, but reasonable enough. The prices continue chopping, and it just gets really noisy now, and it's moving into the last 10 minutes. It's like a first entry long here. Technically, I have a second entry long. Now, had this trade set up at a different time of day, I think I might have considered taking it because this is only a 6 tick risk. Well, it's a 6 tick bar, so it's only 8 ticks of risk. I think I would have considered taking this because there's some multiple tests here. Looks like there is some kind of support. It's pushing back up, so potentially a trade here, but it's too late in the day. So I'll just mark it, but let's see. I'll just mark it as a second entry long. Unfortunately, too late in the day because you only have 5 minutes left. Then prices just kind of keep chopping and moves into the close. So a very, very, I guess a lot of things, a lot of price action today, a lot of movement and some decent setups. So a little bit longer video, but it's good for myself. So if I ever have to reference this again, I'll kind of see how I saw the day push out. So hopefully that was helpful.